All right, this video is on review for the quiz that you're going to retake today. So I'm not quite sure where the confusion is, which is why I have a discussion set up today. In that discussion, I want everyone to respond. I don't have a specific question you have to answer, but the general question that we're looking at is um, what's going on with the online learning that I need to know, or specifically for you guys is why are the quizzes so hard? Um, and that gives a little bit of information. I don't want things like the quizzes are confusing. That is not helpful to me. It will not change anything. So if that's all that I get back, the quizzes will stay exactly the same. It's not that I don't believe you. I'm struggling to see what's confusing about them. So if you want to kind of have the same comment back, for you to say they are confusing, my response would be, it's confusing to me that they're confusing, which is also not helpful for you. So I need things that actually tell me something that I can work on or I can try to fix for them. I don't know if it's just that we haven't taken a lot of them, and so there's some question there. I know a few of you had problems with images or things like that, but I think we have most of that sorted out. I don't think that's where the problems came in. If you didn't see images, make sure you tell me before you retake the quiz, because if you were just guessing point blank and you never told me that, hey, it didn't make any sense, there were no questions, then we have another problem. So in the discussion post, again, tell me constructive criticism, things that could actually help me to try to improve it. We're stuck with this for another month at least. Yeah, we will have Easter break in there, but we're going to have more quizzes online. We're going to probably have to have a test online, possibly next week. So we need to fix this so that we're not dealing with this for another month. All right. Just a quick other thing. Another complaint or comment that I've heard is I don't do online learning well. Okay. In a very technical sense, this isn't online learning. Just because you're on a computer doesn't mean it's online learning. Online learning is actually something a little bit different than this. This is a type of distance learning or something like that. So that's beside the point. Sorry. The point here is that if the instruction is leading you to do well on the homework, then it is not an issue with the instruction, at least from my point of view. You can tell me I'm wrong in the discussion as well. There's something else, and it's specific to the quiz, is what I'm seeing, unless there's another underlying factor, which I could see there being one, but another underlying factor. So the more detailed you are, the more likely I am to be able to change something and try to help. The less thorough you are, so like it's confusing, I hate it, things like that don't help me do anything. And yeah, so this is your chance to try to tell me something, to try to help, but I need specifics so that I can actually make those changes. All right, to the quiz review. So again, you'll be retaking this quiz today. I'm trying in this video to make the connection on how it is what we have been working on this whole time. We covered 3 sections, 3 parts of 1 section in 3 days. Usually I take a day, maybe 2 to work on that. So at this point, we'll actually have taken 5 or 6 days on it. So I know it's tougher. Trig is not easy the first time you look at it. I understand that it's confusing. Again, my problem is that almost everyone seems to do well on the homework, which means that there's nothing for me to reteach because everyone's doing fine, and then we get to the quiz, and then all of a sudden everything's confusing. So if we have a triangle ABC, and a right angle. I would suggest that you do take these notes. Again, this is like the first 3 questions from your quiz. So it will give you a diagram like this. I think on the quiz it was JKL or something like that. And then it's going to tell you that A is 20, B is 29, and C is 21. Right? And then it's going to ask you for some of the trig ratios. So it doesn't ask you for all of them. It asks one at a time, which is a little different than how we did it in class, on the video and in the notes and in the homework. There we just did all of them. So here it's going to ask for like 1 and then ask you to round to the 100th. We don't care about the actual fraction. So it might say something like the sine of A. All right. Sine always goes with the SO, S-O-H, of SOHCAHTOA. So we're going to the side opposite angle A. Right, opposite angle A is side A. And side A is 20. It says 20 right here. Right? Over the hypotenuse, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is across from the right angle. B is the right angle. And so side B is the hypotenuse, 29. It's asking for an answer to the nearest 100th. So all you do is put 20 divided by 29 into a calculator and round to the nearest 100th. I get 0.689. So all I have to do is go to the 1,000th. It's 9, so I round the 8 up. So I get 0.69. All right. Again, the same diagram as for the first few questions. So it might also ask you for, the tangent of C. All right, we're not going to do all of these today. The tangent of C. So angle C, the tangent should be the opposite, which is C, over the adjacent, which is A. So we get 21 over 20. 21 divided by 20 is 1.05. How about the cosine of, let's do the cosine of C. So do that one on your own, and then you'll be able to check it. I would strongly suggest that you check these 20 over 29, make sure you get 0.69. If you get something else, it means you did something wrong, right? It's just 20 over 29, 20 divided by 29, that's it. Cosine of C, the side adjacent to C is A, that is 20. And the hypotenuse is B, that's 29. We get 20 over 29, that is also 0.69 because it's going to be the same as the sine of A, right? So again, I could ask you for the sine of C, the tangent of A, and so on, but we're not going to keep doing those. That's the first 3 questions, is on that idea. Again, rounding to the nearest 100th, that's 2 spots after the decimal place. All right, the next set of questions, find x to the nearest 100th. So I'm not going to cover every kind of example that we could get here. We don't have time. If you get the concept, then given any diagram similar to this, we should be fine, right? So we might have something like this, right? We're looking for the side x, right? In comparison to the angle that we know, the first thing that you need to do is, what is side X called? So side X, is it opposite, is it adjacent, or is it the hypotenuse? X is the opposite side, right? What about 20? Well, 20 is across from the right angle. That means it's the hypotenuse, right? So we have the opposite and the hypotenuse. The opposite and the hypotenuse always goes with the sine, right? The sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the sine of an angle 38 is x over 20. Right? So again, the sine of the angle here is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Multiply both sides by 20. X equals 20 sine 38. However, I'm asking for answers to the nearest hundredth. So you type 20 sine 38 in your calculator, and we get x is about 12.31. You should check this before you do your quiz, right? If you do 20 sine 38, you get some other weird number, not 12.31, then again, it's 12.31, 322951, right? But we're gonna round. If you get something other than this, that means that your calculator is probably set to the wrong mode, right? So the mode needs to be changed to degrees. All right. So given the 27-degree angle here, the side with 4 on it, is it the opposite, the adjacent, or the hypotenuse? And hopefully you're coming up with that it is the adjacent side, and x is the hypotenuse, right? So which of our trig functions uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse? That is the cosine, right? So TOA, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, adjacent and hypotenuse. So the cosine of 27 is 4 over x, right? Adjacent over the hypotenuse. So this is probably the toughest kind of problem that we can have, because we have to start by multiplying both sides by x. When you multiply 4 over x by x, the denominators cancel out. Cosine of 27 is just a number. If you don't believe me, type the cosine of 27 in your calculator, you'll get a number, right? So even though it has 3 letters, this is just a number. So we divide by the cosine of 27. And 4 divided by the cosine of 27 is 4.49. Again, that's rounded to the nearest hundredth. All right. Just because I'm not showing an example with the tangent in here doesn't mean that I can't do the tangent, right? The tangent is still the opposite over the adjacent. So as long as you know that, if I gave you 4 and asked you to find this side, right? You'd have the tangent of this side, maybe y over 4, and then multiply both sides by 4. Okay. That was the second set of the questions. And then the last set of the questions, find the angle measure to the whole degree. So we might have, again, a diagram. Right triangle, 6 and 7. The triangle might be called ABC. And in this section, I might ask you to find the measure of angle A. Right? So again, you look at your diagram, we have the side that is opposite and the side that is adjacent. Opposite and adjacent always goes with the tangent, right? The tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So here we have the tangent, but we're looking for an angle measure. So when we look for an angle measure, we use the inverse. So the tangent inverse of the opposite, which is 7 over 6, is the measure of angle A. Tangent inverse of 7 over 6 is 49, about. So it's 49.39, but again, we're going to the whole degree. Most of the time for angles, we go to the whole degree. We might go to a tenth sometimes, but whole degree here. Again, if we wanted to find B, it'd be the same idea. So we'd have the tangent inverse of the opposite over the adjacent, and we get about 41. All right, we'll look at one more of those and then we'll call it good. So again, if we're looking for angles, if we're finding the angle measure, we're using the inverse functions. If we are finding a side, we're going to be using the regular sine, cosine, and tangent. But the SOHCAHTOA works for the inverse stuff too, right? This is the tangent of the opposite over the adjacent, TOA, right? 12, 19, A, B, and C. So if I was looking for the measure of angle A, if you'd want, you might pause the video now and do it on your own. Again, the first thing we're looking at is what we're given. We're given the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse goes with the cosine. So we have the cosine. We're looking for an angle. So cosine inverse of the adjacent over the hypotenuse, 12 over 19. We get about 50.8, and that rounds up to 51 degrees. For the measure of angle B, we might use the sine inverse. All right, coming back and just quickly re-explaining. Apparently I did have it off the page. Everything I said was true, but for angle A, again, side 12 is the adjacent, 19 is the hypotenuse. Adjacent hypotenuse always goes with the cosine, CAH, right? So the cosine inverse, because we're looking for an angle, of the adjacent 12 over the hypotenuse 19. And that was about 51. Here for B, 12 is the opposite, 19 is the hypotenuse. The opposite and hypotenuse goes with the sine. Opposite is 12, hypotenuse is 19. And I believe we get about 39 here. Yeah, 39.1, but we're going to whole degree, so just 39 degrees. Right? Again, this is what the quiz is. It all revolves around this, right? When it really comes down to it. So if you can't find an opposite side or an adjacent side or what the hypotenuse is, this is going to be very, very difficult. If you don't know how to apply SOHCAHTOA, the quiz is going to be very difficult. However, I'm hoping that with this review here, you can start to make the connections between the notes and everything else. So the first section we looked at, this is what we did Friday in our live session. This is what we did on Monday. And this last part is what we did on Tuesday. All right. Again, you have the retake quiz to work on. Um, again, post your work. For the most part there, I'm looking to make sure that you did work. Um, I would think seeing stuff similar to the work that I show, especially for like this one and these two, would be something you might do. Um, I think copying down the diagrams might be helpful, but that would be kind of up to you. But you should have some work that is being shown.